watched a movie called Food Inc. It was introduced to my 8th grade science class, and it started showing me this new kind of farming that I had never heard about. I started asking people about these new types of farming. It was factory farming, and I found that some of them were really eager to talk about the topic with me, and others shied away from talking about it with me. That made me really curious. So, let's talk about these two types of farming. Today we're going to talk first about what a factory farm is. Secondly, we're going to talk about what a free-range farm is. And lastly, we'll touch on some of the arguments that are being said about both types of farming. To qualify for a certain type of farming, or anything that is official, it has to have criteria. So the criteria for a factory farm would be this, as stated by Carrie Kreiber's article in Understanding Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations, or CAFOs, from CDC.gov. A CAFO is an industrial agricultural facility that raises animals at a high density. Some words that are often associated with factory farming are efficient. They're often able to keep up with the growing need for more food at a faster rate, which Jeff explained as being a very major reason that they're needed. They're also associated with being very big. CAFOs are often huge buildings that house thousands of animals. And some people who don't like to talk about these factory farms talk about why they might be inhumane. The criteria for a factory farm is that how they take care of the animal waste that they come in contact with, and how much space there is for the animals to roam. As you can see, there's a certain amount of animals required per certain amount of space, and depending on how many you have, that determines whether or not you're a factory farm or a free-range farm. Some benefits of CAFOs, however, are, well, Carrie Kreiber believes that a successful CAFO, when in a local area, can actually increase the number of jobs, and that when people are spending money within their own community can lead to tax expenditures and increased tax expenditures, which can increase funds going towards schools or infrastructures. The second, as Jeff stated again, its ability to feed many people. CAFOs, because they're so efficient, are able to keep our world fed. Second, so defining free range. Defining free range has been a difficult task since the popularity of CAFOs came into existence, because free range used to be what we're all accustomed to. It was the outdoor space, it was the green pastures that you see printed on all the labels. Well, some words associated with free range farming are commonly that it's spacious. Some people argue more humane. It's also a slower process, but cleaner and more expensive. So what is the definition for free-range farming? Well, free range is often associated with what is humane, and definitions for humane vary from person to person. So it's not a surprise that there's actually not a fully formed definition of what it is. The closest definition, as stated on certifiedhumane.org from the Humane Society of the United States of America, was defined by Congress as animals not housed in caging devices that were being provided outdoor access. So what are the benefits of free-range farming? Well, you know where your food comes from. Oftentimes, free-range farmers are local people right in your own community. You can support them by purchasing their meat, and you know that they're more likely to probably spend that money within your community. Secondly, oftentimes free-range animals require less antibacterial drugs. In each type of farming, animals require drugs in order to keep them healthy, but oftentimes in free-range farming, they require less than factory farms because the animals are not confined in such close spaces where they can easily transmit their disease from one to another. So people argue about free-range farming versus factory farming for many reasons, but for my last point, we'll just be looking at two of the most common statements that get people stirring. First statement. Free-range farming is healthier than factory farming. Animals in CAFOs are often confined in areas that cause them to have to be very close to each other. So close that they're able to transmit diseases easily to each other. This is a picture from Food Inc. showing one farmer who actually was allowing the cameras to go into her facility, what it's like for her chickens. This is from an Abel M. Cole, who raises free-range pigs in Oregon, I believe. S.E. Smith from organicconsumers.org posted on August 23, 2015 about a special drug called ractopamine, which is a growth stimulant. Ractopamine is used to help animals get heavy as quickly as possible. It's one of the many drugs that are often put into animals on factory farms. Statement 2. Factory farming is more accessible to people than free range. Therefore, it's the best method. It's cheaper than free range farming. It's true. And it's the majority of how we receive our food. Many fast food companies buy their meat from factory farms. And like Jeff said, many people just can't afford to buy tons of more quality or expensive meat because of their situation. Sometimes their situations are because the person is poor, or because the person has to make up for medical bills that they're paying for other things to keep them healthy. If you're poor, your major concern is whether or not you'll eat, and your second concern may be where it comes from. There are always those issues in the world that seem unsolvable because there are too many factors involved. But when a community of individuals is more informed about how the world around them works and the way things operate, it can lead to discussion, which can lead to figuring out methods that more efficient methods that work for everyone. In conclusion, I urge you to think about these two choices of farming and how they've maybe already affected your life and how they'll already affect your future. Think about the processes that these farms go through to produce their meat and read more about each of the arguments for each type of farming, for ignorance isn't always bliss.